In this section, I want to talk about the relationship between impurity or defilement and the Shinto response of purification. Some of you may recognize the moving image on the screen there. It's a boar from the movie Princess Mononoke. And without wanting to get into all the reasons why the boar has come to that state, but the spaghetti-like stuff coming off of it is a visual representation of this sumi, or I would say more kegare here, this kind of physical impurity. What I want to focus on here is how the boar itself, which is a kami, is not bad, not evil, but because it has somehow been infected with this kind of impurity, and the impurity has really consumed it and taken over, that it is no longer able to use its regular rational senses and be able to live in harmony with others, with the world, with other kami, with people. And it goes on a rampage. And this is a theme that's carried out throughout the movie. If you've seen it, you'll recognize it. The point here is that impurity is not exactly a natural state, right? That our natural state is to be good, but somehow when we become impure, if we do not remove that impurity, then we can result in this situation where we act in ways that further creates more harm, more disaster, more disorder, a lack of harmony. And so the idea is that Shinto, therefore, has focused on the development of rituals to help to purify us. And that's where the powerful kami come in. So we looked at some examples of mountains and trees and waterfalls and those places of tremendous spiritual energy where if we go there, we can they can absorb more of our negative energy because they're so powerful. But of course, there are more local versions of that as well. Your local Shinto shrine, if you live in Japan, you're never far from a Shinto shrine. And we started the whole lecture by talking about how local that traditionally was. And so in pre-modern times, when people didn't travel so much, their local shrine was where they would go to be purified whenever they felt that they needed it. And of course, there are other things that happen at certain times of the year. So purification, there are two basic forms, and I want you to look at these two videos. Misogi are more water-based ritual forms. In this particular one, a very ancient version of bathing in the ocean. It's based on a story with Izanagi and Izanami, where Izanami dies and Izanagi goes to the underworld, a very impure place. It's worth noting that when he comes out and he is full of impurity because he's been in the underworld, it's very similar to the Greek idea of Hades, it's not any fault of his own. We want to make a very clear distinction here between a Western notion of sin, where God establishes certain commandments and then we willfully break those commandments. In the case of Shinto, most of the impurity we're talking about comes from contact with blood or with death or other impure things. Again, the starting point is that people are basically pure, but through no fault of our own, we may come into contact with impurity. And when we're in that impure state, we will act in ways that kind of infect that impurity more broadly, and that can lead to all kinds of disasters. And of course, the powerful deities don't like that impurity, and so they may respond by bestowing natural disasters, droughts, floods, and things like that as well. And so there's a kind of obligation to continually purify ourselves. So if you watch this version, you can see one version of it, and you'll see the Shinto priest, and he has a special wand to wave away impure forces. There's sake is involved, Japanese rice alcohol, so watch that one. The other very common form of water-based purification is standing under a waterfall, and so that's something that one can do as well. and you can, that one doesn't have a video, but you can easily find videos of that. So it's very common practice in Shinto as well. The other one is a more general kind of purification. It is typically done for cars, for buildings. In this case, they're blessing the site where a home is going to be built, for babies, for people. Again, you see the one to remove impure forces from the area. The priest will recite norito, these prayers that are asking the kami for their blessings, so together we have two basic forms where sometimes with the help of a priest, or either you can also go directly to a Shinto shrine or just in nature and be purified in that way. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next lecture. I want to just end by setting up this question here. So we've seen how Kannagata is this natural sense of living in harmony with the spirits, and I want you to think about the relationship between these purification rituals, the special thing that Shinto highlights, and what is the connection between that and Kannagata, living in harmony with the spirits? How do those purification rituals help us to do that? So you can write your reflection on that, take a look at the whole site, and then we'll come back and talk more about Shinto in the next lecture.